Thank you all for tuning in to Let's Address This with Qasim. Rashid. I'm excited about an old friend who's returning back to our live. Nick Paro is a Substacker himself. He is sick of this ish publications, intelligent masculinity, some great content. We're talking today about a topic near and dear to my heart, disability rights. As you know, this regime has done everything possible to make life miserable for anyone who's not, wealthy, white, straight male, and anyone else is basically expendable. And Nick is one of the champions in the disability community, in the broader community, who is fighting for disability rights and helping us keep awareness of what's happening and what we can do to be more involved. And before I bring in Nick on, I'll make one point. A disability is not something that affects a portion of society. At some point, everybody will be disabled some point in your life. Every single person out there. This is something that impacts all of us. So even if you have zero empathy, uh, at least have empathy for yourself, because this is going to impact you. Nick, thanks for being here, man.
Qasim, thank you for having me. It's so good to see you. Happy birthday. I'm glad you got at least some time off yesterday. I know it wasn't all that you wanted, but I'm glad you got a little bit off.
I
So
got
happy
time with my
birthday, brother.
family. I got
Good.
time with my family. They got my kids got me. They saw that my coaster had broken, so they got me a new coaster for my coffee, which is
Oh, that's so
fantastic.
cute.
And then my wife finally, it's off camera here, but she finally got my law degree from 15 years ago framed, that it's been
Oh,
sitting
that's wonderful.
curled up as a scroll. So I'm like, yeah, it only took 15, 16 years, but now we finally got it done. So I appreciate that. It's very thoughtful gifts as
That's
well.
really wonderful. I love
Um,
thoughtful gifts. Those
yeah,
make
yeah,
those make the best gifts.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, let's talk disability though.
Yeah,
Is
the
what's going
DOJ's
on.
got a new memo out. I'd love for you to kind of talk about this new DOJ
Yeah.
memo, and just all the things wrong with it. And then if folks have questions in the comments, please feel free. But the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Qasim. And I really appreciate you giving me the time on your platform to be able to do this, like talk about this. So I'm Nick Paro. I am the founder at Sick of This Shit Publications. I know Qasim, you won't say it. I will though. And I am the director of framing at Disability Community for Democracy Incorporated, founded by Naida Green, incredible advocate for disability rights and disability freedoms. And so we have come together in a partnership to say no to Crip Crow because humanity is not for debate. Um, and on June 18th, at night of June 18th, before Juneteenth this year, the DOJ and reported by Bloomberg, the Stephen Miller backed DOJ memo came out to undercut the 1999 Olmstead Decision.
Mm.
And for those who don't know what 1999 Olmstead Decision was, that decision ended forced institutionalization and ended segregation and discrimination for disabled individuals. So 1999 was the year that we ended segregation and discrimination in our nation, because it took until 1999 to identify that disabled people also should not be segregated or discriminated against. What this ended up doing on a broader scale, too, was it in many ways ended practices of immediate segregation and discrimination for prison systems.
Hmm.
It opened up further schooling for children so that there were equitable in classroom solutions that reduce the amount of pull-out time while improving the services and tooling. What it does for us on the broadest scale right now is it prevents mass warehousing of people. And
Mm.
that's where I want people to put their most attention at when I talk about this at the moment, is because it does impact us all. Is mass institutionalization right now would mean we don't have institutions. And so what 1999 Olmstead Decision said was that states and territories cannot forcibly institutionalize a patient without their consent or their doctor's permission or their care provider's permission. So two women in Georgia sued the state. It went up to the Supreme Court, and all we have is a Supreme Court decision saying that that we cannot forcibly institutionalize disabled people. that it enabled in-home care and the least restrictive environments. It is, Sandra, it is terrifying. It should be
Yeah,
terrifying to people because this is historically looking back at historical references, and I'm going to try and keep brief so that we can actually go through all of this. Is the Nazis did this.
of course.
First, they came after the disabled people,
Yep,
and nobody said anything. And when they got rid of disabled people's rights, guess what? Your rights are disabled people's rights too,
yep,
because equity and accessibility are for everybody. And if you take those rights away, guess what? You don't have them either. Due
yep.
process for all or none. Like
And
that
and
is a
and,
zero sum game.
and I want to pause on that before we go further, because oftentimes people think that the Nazis came up with their own ideas, but they actually got their ideas from Jim Crow America.
Correct.
There's a professor, Quincy, I think, of Princeton University, has written a book called Hitler's American Model, where he talks about this in detail. And not only did Hitler send his lawyers to the United States to study America's miscegenation laws and segregation laws, but also America's eugenics laws as well.
Mhm.
And there's one really famous ruling in 1924, I believe, that was never actually overturned, by the way, called Buck versus Bell. And this was a Supreme Court decision that decided whether a Virginia law forcibly sterilizing black people or undesirables was a constitutional law. And lo and behold, the Supreme Court said, "Yeah, that's perfectly constitutional. The state has an interest
Mhm.
in getting rid of the undesirables of whoever the state decided was undesirable. In this case, black people." And there was forced sterilization of before this was finally stopped. There was forced sterilization of tens of thousands of black people across the country because then about 35 other states passed similar laws. And this is in recent memory. This is not the 1700s or 1800s. This is the 20th century. It finally stopped in the mid 20th century around the civil rights movement, which is in living memory of today. And so I bring that up because there is this tendency I think folks have to say, well, that was just so long ago. It wasn't. It was actually as recently as 1999, and the policies being passed now. I would argue, and I'll get your thoughts on this too. Maybe you might disagree, and if you do, we should have a conversation. But I would argue denying healthcare as a human right is a form of eugenics because
Yes.
you are deciding who gets to live and who gets to die based off of money, not based off of principle or the inherent value of a human life.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree on this point. Is we are in the middle of a eugenics regime. Like,
Yeah.
let's call a thing
Yep.
and use the right words because words mean things and the right words at the right time mean really important things.
Yep.
And the right is really good at capturing slogans because they find the correct words and they use them.
Yeah.
And they use them over and over and over and over again. And Qasim, I'm really glad that you framed it the way you did around this is not a Nazi problem. This is an American problem.
That's right.
We are the problem. Like, people need to understand that. And it's okay to admit it
Yep.
that we're the problem. And we need to fix it because the first step in recovery is admitting that you have a problem.
That's right.
We're in an abusive relationship right now. Like, that's what I've been talking about on my side in all of this is fascism is domestic violence at scale.
Yeah.
And we are
Wow.
living under a domestic violence perpetrator who we know like commits violence towards partners and non-partners, unwilling and willing. And that's who he is. That's what
Yeah.
this regime is. And
Who do you,
eugenics is an American problem.
yeah. And it's going to get worse unless we activate and organize. And so who do you see are some of the you say the word champions. Who are some of the champions who you see as they get it? They're working in elected office with the urgency that the moment demands. That we should maybe get behind and support. Is there legislation that we should be getting behind? What do you advise are the practical remedies that we need to be engaged in right now to protect disability rights? And
Mhm.
and when I say that, I want folks to understand when I say protect disability rights, I mean protect human rights, broadly. We're just talking specifically about the disability community because it involves
Yeah.
all of us. But the targeting of the disability community to me is one canary in the coal mine for how they're going to treat a state is going to treat the rest of us if they could as well. So you prevent mass genocide by preventing, eugenics of any one community. So who are the folks doing it right that we can rally around?
So the folks that are doing it right now are the Disability Community for Democracy, and my organization, Sick of This Shit Publications. We are leading the discussion on this, and our charge is on a webpage called broadbanner.com/crip-crow. It is a webpage that I have built myself from the ground up. It is an action campaign page that is specifically talking about what our call to action is, which is we need to codify Olmstead into law.
Hmm.
We could do it now through reconciliation or through just an amendment put it on the floor, but we'd have to have actual representatives and senators who are brave enough to do that.
Are,
We
are
don't
there
have
are
a
there any right
dedicated
now?
list yet.
Yeah. Are there any right now in Congress, in the House or the Senate that are willing to have that conversation?
We're working with we're working to engage with Representative Presley
Good.
to get her support
Yep.
because the recent passing of the handicap or
Hmm.
the wheelchair support. Sorry, that was wrong word choice there and wrong word usage there.
No, I
The
understand.
wheelchair support bill
Yeah.
that just passed was incredible, and we're really excited that, and I say we as part of as director of framing for Disability Community for Democracy, is we are really excited that that got done because the accessibility for wheelchair support, again, accessibility is for everybody. So how you can help is go to broadbanner.com/crip-crow. I will put it in the Substack chat here again.
Yeah.
Go to that link. On that link, you will find our webpage. It is an action page that explains what is going on and then what our legislative goals are. We have two pieces of legislative goals that we are trying to refine and get support on how we can make this like bulletproof, single item, well, two items, but
Yeah.
single issue bill, like School of Rock style improvement is this would be a amendment to the ADA.
Yeah.
And so we want to amend the existing law. People don't want to touch the ADA because they're afraid to, yada yada. Come on. Like
You can
it's
make it
we got
better. Yeah.
two things.
Yeah. You can
Let's make
improve
it
it.
better.
Yeah.
All we're asking for is that the states and territories cannot forcibly institutionalize individuals and that the funding is always available to ensure that states and territories cannot say we don't have the funding or the
Yeah.
grants available.
We
That's all we're
we shouldn't.
asking.
I mean, it's not even asking for the moon, although we deserve the moon, but we shouldn't be having to ask for that. And the other thing I'll point out about this is that if we're not actively improving the ADA, then what are we doing? Right? Like that. What's the point? Right? If we're not going to actively improve
Humanity's not for debate.
that's right. Yeah, and it needs to continue to improve because the alternative is not stagnation. The alternative is a decimation. I'll give you an example of that. When I ran for Congress 2 cycles ago, my opponent, a Democrat, was the co-sponsor of a bill to gut the ADA, and he was one of only 12 Democrats who voted for this. He was the only Democrat to co-sponsor, maybe one of two Democrats to co-sponsor it. And this guy's name is Bill Foster. He fancies himself as a scientist and talks about how he's scientific and logical and everything. And this guy had the moral bankruptcy to take $2,500 in lobbying money from an organization that wanted to gut the ADA and then co-sponsored a bill to gut the ADA. And what his legislation would have done if it passed would have made people who have a disability, for example, they use a wheelchair and they need access. It would have made it more difficult for them to sue if they were discriminated against. Because if there's one community who has too much power, everyone knows it's the disabled community. That's
Yeah.
what this piece of legislation would have done. And this is why I say that this is to me not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a bipartisan, it's a human rights issue. And if we're not actively working to advance disability protections to a place of equity and equality and humanity, then you're going to have lobbyists come in and try to tear it down. And it's not just a Republican or MAGA problem. There are feckless, corrupt corporate Democrats like Bill Foster, the guy I ran against, who, despite people in the disability community going to him and begging him, do not do this. People had to be carried off the House floor because they protested by throwing themselves on the House floor and saying, don't pass this legislation. And you got these corrupt, fascists like Bill Foster, a Democrat, saying, no, 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 it's way too difficult for a business to run to accommodate disabled people. So we're going to allow them to be protected from lawsuits. It's insane to me. I get so angry about it because it's such a low bar, and you have these corrupt corporate politicians decide that nope, that's too high of a bar for me to follow through as well. So when we talk about the urgency of now, Nick, I think it's more than just fixing what's broken. It's also preventing it from getting worse because apathy will ensure it gets worse.
Yeah, if you're not doing something actively right now to fix the problem, you're part of the problem.
That's exactly right.
And the the thing that we're trying to do with all of this is we're trying to find as many people who would be willing to sponsor this bill, be it Republican, be it Democrat,
Yeah.
be it independent, because humanity is not political. Like, this is what we're trying to remind people. This is a culture war. We're fighting
Yes.
culture wars because culture is upstream of politics. And disability rights are for everybody. We spoke to Amanda Pushkak, who is the Alabama 4 Democratic nominee um, for the House,
Yeah.
House Democratic nominee for Alabama 4, Amanda Pushkak. She came on and spoke with Naida Green and I for our Listening Louder series, where we talked about um, disability rights and when she spoke about the Olmstead memo, which is, I think, the most important memo that has come out by this administration, and it should be one of the only things we're talking about right now. Because a reminder, what this undermining and getting rid of this memo allows the government to do would be to warehouse people,
Mm.
because they're not building institutions, they're building warehouses.
Yeah.
Texas has warehouses all over the place. States have warehouses all over the place. They're not building institutions, they're building warehouses.
Which
And
is a
there are
nice word for
more,
concentration camps, if you ask
yeah,
me.
nice word for concentration camps.
Yeah.
They want to warehouse people, they want to concentrate people and put them in camps. They already talked about farms for people with autism or ADHD, shit like that, to give you a place to go work off the extra energy and then come back. That's bullshit. Also, yeah, Sandra, I saw your comment about those of us with disability, like invisible disabilities. Look at me. I have invisible disabilities. I have fibromyalgia and other limiting factors that are invisible. I suffer from migraines. I have ADHD. I have depression and anxiety. I have PTSD from events when I went to Afghanistan and in the army. Like, I'm broken in many ways that are not really visible.
Yeah.
Invisibility and disability makes it so that people, yeah, don't believe you.
Yeah.
Olmstead is the solution to ensure that people do not get warehoused. It's also the solution to make sure that your kid is able to be in classroom with other children while
Yeah.
they're learning. This
Yeah.
would impact my kids. Both my kids are on a disability plan at school, be it an IEP or a 504. Texas has a Section 504 lawsuit that is trying to get rid of the ability for 504 plans to be utilized, basically.
Yeah.
So that
I
kids would not have in-classroom disability support if they did not meet the qualifications for an IEP. Like,
yeah.
that directly impacts my kids, and it probably impacts most of your kids. But what Amanda talked about was it ignited everyone in her district,
It's
because
amazing.
everyone was like, holy shit, this impacts me.
Yeah. And a
Like,
very
we were
real
talking about
yeah.
what finally impacted every American. What issue impacts every American? Disability rights.
That's right. Yeah.
And
I
people
wanna
are awake to that.
I wanna address a comment, and then I wanna close it out with a story, and then give you the floor to give her final word. Somebody asked, I heard Lindsey Graham's sister is a good fighter for disabled people. Is that true? My only response to that is, I don't know. I don't trust anyone related to Lindsey Graham or Lindsey Graham because his voting record has been atrocious. I will say that his the challenger in that seat, Dr. Annie Andrews, is a absolute champion for disability rights. She is a physician. She has dedicated her life to the health and well-being of people. We've interviewed her on this show before, and I would encourage everyone to check out Dr. Annie Andrews because she is fantastic. She is who we need in South Carolina. And I'll close with a story. I remember this was years ago, maybe almost a decade ago. I was at a campaign event talking about the need for universal health care. And there was a Republican there who came up to me afterwards and he said that I've opposed universal health care my entire life, but I think you finally convinced me. And I said, "Oh, okay. What changed your mind?" And he said that he goes, My son is nonverbal autistic and needs 24/7 care, and I I do well enough that I can provide that care. But it suddenly occurred to me, I don't know why it took just until now, but it occurred to me that I'm going to die one day. I'm not going to be around anymore. And who knows what's going to happen after I'm gone to take care of him. And if we don't guarantee healthcare as a human right, then my son could suffer immensely. And I said, I'm sorry that it took you a personal experience to understand this, but this is why we need to look at all humanity as our own family. Every neighbor needs to be our own family. We cannot do the cruelty of saying, "Well, Nick's not related to me. I don't really care what happens to him," because that is exactly how we're going to be treated as well, and then we all suffer as a result of it. That empathy is what binds humanity together, and we need to have that pain for each other as if it was to ourselves. And until we get to that point, we're not going to clear this bar, this very low bar of recognizing the humanity of one another. And so I ask folks when we talk about these issues of healthcare as a human right, of disability protections, we're not asking for special treatment. We're not asking for luxury items. We're not asking for wants. We're asking for basic necessities, basic human dignities that shouldn't need to be asked for. You don't need to ask for oxygen to get oxygen, right? And those of us who are in the Midwest and the Northeast are seeing the air quality is so bad that we can't go outside. We're seeing how frustrating that is and how just how debilitating that is. I have a child with asthma. We had to keep him locked inside the house because we were afraid something would happen if he stepped outside. Imagine the entire world constantly being like that only because people are too lazy to do the very bare minimum to make sure that you have equal access to humanity. And so I'll stop there, leave the floor to you, Nick. Thank you for the work you're doing. But please share with folks how they can get involved, how they can support you, and how they can continue to build a community where every person has equal access to dignity.
I appreciate you having me on, Qasim. Thank you so much. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And for those who want to be able to get in contact, is please and support and stay informed. Is please go to broadbanner.com/crip-crow. We'll put it in the Substack chats. Thank you, Naida, who's in the chat as well. Naida is the founder of Disability Community for Democracy and Nothing About Us Without Us. Please go subscribe to her work. I'm the framing director at Disability Community. You can find that. You can find us there at Disability Community on Substack. You can find me at sickofthis.substack.com. And those are my two main publications. And what we're asking though is go to broadbanner.com/crip-crow. Say no to Crip Crow with us. We use the phrase Crip Crow for a reason, and Naida is much better explaining the history on it than I am. So when she and I have spoken about it before, it is meant for a reason. It catches your attention. Um, Say no to Crip Crow is call your representative and your senators daily. And if your representative or senator has a family member who is disabled, bring that up. Bring it up.
Right.
Be
Tell a story.
deliberate. Like they work for you. Be deliberate. Remind them that this impacts them too, and all of us, because we live in a hyper individualistic society right now, which is part of our problem because democracy is community at scale, and hyper individualism leads to fascistic tendencies, and we've gone that way. Um, is we need universal health care? Yes, I believe in that. There are ways we can get there. This is one of the first steps is admitting that the disability community is all of us and we need basic human dignity. Like,
Amen, brother.
humanity is not for debate. And
Amen.
that's it. And if you want to reach out to us, sign up. There's a sign up link to stay informed at broadbander.com/crip-crow. Underneath the calling scripts and email scripts for your rep and senators, there's a lot of really useful tools in there. Underneath that is a link to stay informed that puts you on the email list. We are not selling any of that data to anybody. We're using it to ensure that we know which congressional districts are calling so that we can put forced pressure on specific people. We're going to be shifting our focus here soon once reps go home to in office visits and scheduling office visits with them and unplanned visits and how we can actually get their attention in person because we would like responses. We can get this done. And if not, we've been interviewing candidates. Qasim, I know you've been interviewing candidates. Is we are trying to get candidates, and we have been talking with the candidates on Courage for Democracy and Citizens Impeachment Movement with Kira Havens and her team,
Mhm.
is we have been talking to the candidates about Crip Crow and getting them on board to codify Olmstead into law. And once it's and if it requires the next Congress to do it in an overwhelming majority that is veto proof, then so
Let's
be
do it.
it.
So be it.
Let's do it. Like, so be it. We need a veto proof because this administration will not sign it otherwise, just like the housing bill. This is like the
Yep.
housing bill. This is
I
like the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Single issue, make it stick. And that's all we want is
That's it.
we want reps and senators who are willing to say no to Crip Crow with us, codify our rights into law. Maybe we can get it into a constitutional amendment and actually put down some of those unalienable rights into words so that they can't be questioned anymore because I'm tired of humanity being questioned over and over and over and over and over again. Let's fucking write it down.
Amen to that, brother. Nick, thank you for the amazing work you're doing. Let's keep fighting. You always have a platform here to talk about these issues and the other critical issues you're focused on. Thank you all for the robust conversation in the chat. Make sure you follow Nick and subscribe to him. Thank you all for tuning in to Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid. Please hit subscribe so we can continue to protect your human rights and our democracy. Until next time, peace out.
Thanks, Hassam.